would you characterize Speaker Johnson's handling of this Ukraine situation?
I would characterize Speaker Johnson's handling of Ukraine and all of these other foreign aid bills surrender. This is embarrassing. Do we deserve the majority? I want a majority that actually stands for America and puts America first, and right now that's not what I'm seeing. A vote for Israel to support our nation's greatest ally should be the easiest vote that I ever take. And right now I have to look at $9 billion going to Gaza, which we know will be controlled by Hamas. That's in this Israel vote. And I mean, that's something that, you know, I've been praying about and have to deal with and see ultimately how I'm going to vote on that, because I want to stand with Israel or we're tying it to the other side of this war and terrorists. And it's really shameful. So I'm very, very disappointed in the way this has all come about. We spent weeks, had hours and hours of meetings with the speaker trying to get this right, and we failed America.
Are you still opposed to a motion to vacate?
I don't see how that solves anything. I am opposed to a motion to vacate, but it is gaining momentum. Maybe there's a point where Speaker Johnson listens to Thomas Massie and resigns and we choose a new speaker, but I don't know who that would be and if they could do better. This is really sad. It's a really sad week and day for America. Once again, America is last.
Do you think Republicans deserve to be in the majority?
I think our Republican platform and policies absolutely deserve to have the majority governing voice in our government. But unfortunately, we have leadership that...
The stripping of control from a man who used to be the most powerful person in the United States, some can argue in the world. How does this impact Donald Trump's psyche?
Well, first of all, I was in the courtroom when that happened, and it was a stunning, dramatic moment. You know, here you have a former president of the United States who, since the time he was a little boy, never listened to anyone about anything. You know, he was sent to military academy for being disobedient. And ever since, he's never sat down when somebody told him to. In this case, he had to. He sat down meekly, like the obedient little boy he never was. And it was quite striking, and I think it symbolizes that he is not the most powerful person in that courtroom. That honor belongs to his honor, Judge Juan Merchan, who I think the country is becoming increasingly familiar with, and he is going to make Donald Trump face the music. And in the overall context of American history, this is the first time in nearly 250 years of our history that a president of the United States has gone on criminal trial. So this is big stuff historically. And Judge Merchan is a big figure historically because he's beginning the accountability process as it relates to Donald Trump.
I have enjoyed this conversation with both of you. Please come back together, separately, but I want to see you both again soon. Thank you so much. You may be scrolling through it right now, but soon TikTok may run out of time. Senator Tim Kaine joins me next on
former federal prosecutor, constitutional law attorney. Katie, good to see you. Let's start with the opening statements. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has said that the case is about, quote, conspiring to corrupt a presidential election and then lying in New York business records to cover it up. He says the payoff to Stormy Daniels was, quote, to hide damaging information from the voting public. What will the defense say, do you think, in its opening arguments?
Well, the key issue here is whether the prosecution can actually prove two layers of specific intent on the part of Donald Trump, which is that he had criminal intent to falsify business records, and that's going to be an issue for them, number one, because of the nature of how he described those payments to his lawyer, and then secondly, that he did so to cover up another crime, and that's where you really have to question whether the prosecution can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these payments were for the sole purpose of influencing an election and not for any other purpose, even personal purpose, reputational purposes, et cetera. So the defense is going to make it clear that the prosecution has a very high burden here, and they certainly have very unfortunate witnesses on which to rely to reach that burden, Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels, namely.
Yeah, you talk about Michael Cohen will be the star witness. The former president in the hallway at court said, look, he was relying on his accountants to do this, that he signed these checks. That likely could be his defense. He says he'll testify. We don't know if he will. Is that a reasonable defense, do you think, for him to say, I signed those checks, I thought they were legal expenses, not what the prosecution say to cover up Stormy Daniels?
Absolutely, because when we're talking about criminal intent, we have to look at the mind of the defendant and how he was operating when he made those decisions. So not only does he have his own attorney telling him how to kind of structure these payments, but he has accountants telling him how to do so. And in fact, with regard to the falsified business records, he claimed that these were legal expenses. He's paying his lawyer. I'm not even sure how the prosecution is going to show how that in and of itself is a false statement. And that's just for the misdemeanor charge, which of course they need to prove the elevated felony offense in order to actually get a conviction here.
At the same time, he'll have Michael Cohen on the stand testifying that it was all part of this cover-up scheme, that he took money from his home equity to pay Stormy Daniels, that the Trump organization reimbursed him, and this was all orchestrated by the former president. And he has a tape recording of the former president talking about cash. Do you think that will weigh in with the jury?
Well, it's going to come down to Michael Cohen's claims that Donald Trump essentially directed him to structure it this way. But at the end of the day, Michael Cohen is the licensed attorney, or was the licensed attorney at the time, that was giving advice about how to structure this. And again, hush money payments in and of themselves are not unlawful. The question is whether this was actually a campaign expense that was not reported as such. And that is where you really have to get into the alternate potential motivations for why Trump would pay this money, what he was told, and what advice he was operating under to understand his specific intent. Just because the story was more valuable because Donald Trump was running for office doesn't mean that the payments were made simply to influence the upcoming election. It's kind of a catch-22 that the prosecution is going to have to contend with.
So
he's nervous.
What'd you do?
On Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, Donald Trump entered a Manhattan courtroom and pled not guilty to 34 crimes.
Squash it.
Fucking movie star. You're a fucking movie star.
Said tick, tick, tick.
So first of all, thank you all for coming. This is an incredible historic event that we're having here. And obviously having the First Lady here just means so much to us. That, ladies and gentlemen, the former and next First Lady of the
kind introduction and beautiful words. Good evening. So great to see so many familiar faces here tonight. It is an honor and a privilege to be in your presence once again, surrounded by friends and allies who share the common goal of promoting equality for all.
I amplified legislation and created awareness campaigns that elevated important issues such as foster care, sickle cell disease, social-emotional learning techniques, and neonatal absence syndrome. Be best.
I never thought at any stage I'd be doing the Melania Trump super quick guide to drop shipping. You go on something like Alibaba or Temu, find something kind of cheap, and you flog it at a really big price to the Trumpy Trump MAGAs, because they love any old crap. So you're thinking, what's she selling now? Toilet roll? No, she's selling a 3-heart clover for a lot of money. You gotta give her one thing. She's definitely watched a few old editions of The Apprentice and is marking it up high. So as I said, you can have the Temu version for a couple of dollars, or you could just throw your money, flush it down the toilet. Same thing as they did it to Mrs. Former Guy. Good luck.
Inside Donald Trump's prison cell, the surroundings are like any other small, enclosed space. The walls are gray concrete, and a narrow cot with a thin mattress is the only piece of furniture. A tiny metal sink and toilet combo sit in one corner, while a small barred window allows a sliver of natural light to filter in. The sound of clanking bars echoes through the air as guards patrol the hallway outside.
What? What is...
President Trump is 76 years old. He will die in federal prison.
Trump spends his days pacing the limited floor space. The once powerful man now finds himself in a place of confinement.